Thanks for that. Yeah, Thomas. I did my degree at University of Sheffield in England, and then came here in January to start working as a postdoc. I'm in chemical engineering, which is just the building next door. I work for Dr. Epps there. So this contains a bit of both work from Sheffield and work from here, and stuff we're doing at the minute. So you'll enjoy it. I work primarily in polymer labs, and I'll explain a bit about those and how I'm taking ideas from nature and trying to mimic those synthetically in the polymers that we make. So before we delve too much into the polymers, probably encompass polymers in everyday life anyway. Natural polymers and synthetic polymers. The natural designs, so cotton, or your clothes are made of cotton that contains a polymer called cellulose, and silk to your hair is actually a polymer, keratin. The gelatin in sweets to make them sticky is polymer. The DNA that you're made of, polymer too, and this is rubber, natural rubber being extracted from a tree. And here's some ways that it's been synthetically realised. Like the rubber in the tyres in your car. This is actually my car. So by recreating what is naturally found in the lab, we can create all different types of rubber. If you ever watch car racing or anything on the TV, you'll note that they're using soft tyres, hard tyres, depending on whether it's raining or it's sunny. So by modifying the polymers that you make, you can change the properties of the polymers to make them less sticky, tougher polymers, and for the specific application that you're intending for. And other things such as pretty much anything made of plastic has polymers. And we'll talk about ways you can modify these in a minute. But I use this word, so what is a polymer? Basically a large molecule made up of repeat units, number of repeat units. So and it can go on for basically as long as you want to make these polymers. So in the synthesis in our labs, we can do this in a very controlled way. So we can make very short polymers with all the same length, but very long polymers. We can get mixes of the two together to change the properties. And so throughout this talk, we're going to be referred to by these squiggly lines, which sum them up quite nicely. Another synthetic polymer, bulletproof vests, all the police wear. That's a polymer named Kevlar. And so you've got all these wiggly polymer chains. You wouldn't think would be too strong, but so you synthesize them in a specific way, you can get these groups on the side, and so all the polymer chains will then line up, and you get these interactions between them, which are very weak interactions on their own, but when you've got thousands and thousands of these polymer chains lined up together, they build up and you end up with a very strong material that in this case can actually withstand a bullet hit. Talked about tuning properties before, so different polymers can have different properties. For starting that example of a polymer that can be crystalline, so this is a polymer that will line up, and there will be interactions between the chains. They fit very nicely together, so you end up with a very hard, brittle material. Polyisoprene, on the other hand, is an example of a very rubbery polymer. So it's very flexible, you can move it around, but it's not going to have much strength if you want it to. You're going to use it for anything like that. But if you, say, blend these two together, you can then get mixtures of the two properties, so you can end up with a very tough material that's not going to snap when you bend it. It will have some flex in it. And so it's an example of where you can modify something. So, for example, plastic chairs in the classroom. you need the strength so that you can lean back on them and use them as a chair. But obviously you don't want that to just snap one day when you lean over too hard. So that will be modified so it will flex slightly before it breaks. Also, so your clothes made of cotton, the polymer. But if you look on the label, there'll be a high content of cotton in there. There's also a small amount of elastane. And so the cotton's very nice feel, comfortable clothes to wear. But with the elastane, gives it that elasticity, so you can move around freely. Everyday uses. So if you take this idea of a polymer chain, in our lab we work a lot with block copolymers, which are two polymer chains that are chemically attached together. And in the simplest form, you just have what's called a die block, so you have two blocks linked together. You could extend this and have a third block attached, or alternating blocks all the way down. You could graph blocks along the side of a chain, or have a star coming out of another group, and so on and so on. And the design of these is pretty much up to the imagination of the guy in the lab who wants to make them. But throughout this talk, I'm probably going to focus on the die block copolymers, which is what we use a lot in our lab. We'll go into that. Now, the block copolymers we use in our lab, we synthesize, we term them amphiphilic, which basically means they have a love for two different things. So you'll have a water-soluble block and a water-insoluble block. So this side loves water, whereas this side will love, say, oil. So if you put these in water, you get some strange interactions going on. There's this block tries to hide itself in the water because it's insoluble, whereas this block wants to swell out and be solvated in the water. So in water, when you mix them up, you're going to, these water insoluble blocks are going to tend to aggregate together, and what you'll end up with is known as micelles in solution, where you have this insoluble core surrounded by a shell of highly solvated polymer chains. These are found throughout nature as well, which is where the idea came to start with. I'll show you examples of those in a minute. This is what we synthesize in our lab, the polymers of this type, so that we can play with the structures that form and